Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and good Shabbos. It is an absolutely stellar evening here in Huntington. The sun is out, the sky is blue. It's Erev Shabbat, and we are a little bit over 24 hours from Passover, Pesach. So lot going on, but it is absolutely beautiful. So if you're in the area after services, go outside and take a couple of deep breaths and enjoy the beautiful weather. All right, let's ease our way into Shabbat. Let's take some deep breaths. I know a lot of us have been busy this week preparing for Passover. First Seder is tomorrow evening, and then one on Sunday evening. So we are right on the cusp of the first holiday of the new year, right? The new year of months, at least, right? Nisan. And Pesach is the first holiday. It's the first and runs all the way through Purim being the last, right? So we had Purim just about a month ago. So let's take a deep breath in and out, shaking off the week, all the work that we did. Take another deep breath in and out. Letting go of all the things we've carried into Shabbat. And one more deep breath in and out, welcoming Shabbat. All right, we're going to start by welcoming Shabbat, Kabbalat Shabbat, the welcoming of Shabbat. We're going to start by benching licht, by lighting the candles. Actually, Sam is going to bench licht for us. And if you want to follow along, there's a reading on page 3, and the bracha is on page 2.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words which will speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahalik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you, Sam. Let's jump ahead to page 6 and let's read responsively in English. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship.
May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, things to express, hopes to nurture.
May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May the synagogue be for all who enter the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life.
All right, we are going to jump ahead to page 20. Page 20 for Lecha Dodi, coming to us from the mystical city of Tzfat, welcoming the Shabbos bride or the Shabbos queen as we move from the work week into the Shabbat Kodesh, the holiness of Shabbat. And verses 1 and 2, 8 and 9, and I think we'll do the Chassidish version tonight, get our souls ready for Shabbat and for Pesach. Top of page 20. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmianu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad, Ushmo echad, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם ניסוחה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תריצי. על יד איש בן פרצי, והיא שמחה ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. If that's not a Hasidic tune, it should be. It should be. Page 22, let's read some verses from Psalm 92, also known as the Psalm for Shabbat. We'll read the top paragraph in English and then pick up with Sadiq Katamar. Let's read together. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. With a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together, you have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. Tzadika tamar yifrach, ke'erez balvanon yisgeh shetuli beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu. O jinuvun beseva deshenim vera'ananim yihiyu lehagid ki yashar Adonai tzuri velo havlatapo. Keeping up with the mystical aspects of Kabbalat Shabbat. Kabbalah, which is the word that we get Kabbalat from, Kabbalah comes from the Hebrew root meaning to receive, right, to welcome. when you welcome a bride or a groom, or when you welcome a guest, it's often called Kabbalat Panim. You're welcoming the face, right? And so for Kabbalat Shabbat, we're welcoming Shabbat. But mysticism, also known as Kabbalah, means to receive. And we're receiving the mystical tradition. We're receiving that which is hidden. And Kabbalat Shabbat, of course, comes to us from the mystics. And so every psalm, every prayer, every song has a deeper mystical meaning than what's just on the front, right? So when we say Shalom Aleichem, right? Shalom Aleichem is a traditional greeting. You go to Israel and you say Shalom Aleichem. Somebody will respond Alechem Shalom, right? So it's like saying peace to you, and they're saying and unto you peace, or welcome. And so we're going to welcome the angels, who the mystics tell us come to spend Shabbat with us, and so we welcome them with the song Shalom Aleichem, page 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Tzeitchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Before we leave Shalom Aleichem, the word malach, we do translate that as angel, right? That is a 100% legitimate translation, but a malach is also a messenger, someone who comes bringing tidings, bringing news, bringing anything, right? It's a messenger. And sometimes I think when we're talking about Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, right? Messengers of peace, messengers sent from the one on high, that it could be us. We are the Malachim. We are the ones who are bringing messages of peace and of Shabbat to each other. So just one view of Shalom Aleichem. All right. We have welcomed Shabbat. Shabbat is in our midst. And now we have sufficiently put the work week behind us and eased our way into Shabbat. And we will continue on page 145, Aravit l'Shabbat, the evening service for Shabbat. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, B'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlik malchutei, B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Bahagala, u'v'zman kariv, v'yimeru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach, Leolam Lo Me'amaya. Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitalev, V'yitalal, Shmei Dekudesha, Brichu, Leila Min Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechemata, Dahamiran B'yama, V'yimeru, Amen. We are on page 146. 146, the formal call to evening worship, Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vayed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. We're going to continue on page 147. Let's read responsively near the middle of the page. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom.
Day follows day in the succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures.
Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. Page 148. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Avta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu B'shofeinu uvkumeinu Nasiach bechukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha U'v'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed Ki heim chayenu v'orech yameinu V'orech yameinu Uvahem nehege yomam balayla Yomam balayla V'ahabatecha tasir mimenu li'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha Bechol lavavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha V'hayu advarim ha'ele Asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha V'shinantam levanecha V'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha Uvlektecha v'derech Uv'shokbecha uvkumecha Ukshartam le'ot al yadecha V'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha Uvisharecha Leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai Vehitem kedoshim le'Elohechem Ahani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. On page 151, let's read responsively in the middle. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness eludes our grasp, as imperfection evil abound.
Before our eyes, there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High.
We learned God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom.
Top of page 152. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nohorati lo osefele, malchutecha ra'u vanecha, bokeyam lifnei Moshe, ze eli anu v'amruhu, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. V'ne'emar ki fad Adonai Yaakov, ugalo miad chazak mimenu, baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Top of page 153, the first two lines of Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, v'ha'amidenu shomreinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, v'ha'amidenu shomreinu lechayim. And let's read together near the bottom. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, and over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, Haporei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Amo Yisrael, V'al Yerushalayim. Top of page 154, verses from the book of Exodus. Vishamru, it's not Shabbos without Vishamru. Top of 154. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berith olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berith olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berith olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berith olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berith olam. All right, friends, we are on page 155, the centerpiece of the evening service, the Amidah, and we'll chant 155, 156, and 157 together, and then we'll continue silently through the end on 167. You can follow along or chant along with us in the Hebrew, follow along in the English, or offer up your own prayer at this time. We begin on page 155. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanoga, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei HaKol, Vezocher Chastei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Goel Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Bi'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham, Be'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor L'Olam Adonai, Mechayei Metim Atarav Lahoshia, Mashiv HaRuach, U'Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayei Metim B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayei Emunato, Lishen Be'afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Meimid Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atal hachayehot metim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hametim. Still completing your Amidah, please continue at your own pace. We're on page 160, and let's read together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat. All right, friends, we are on page 163, a little bit of Hoda'ah, the Modin paragraph, the prayer for, not the prayer, it is a prayer, it's a bracha. Somewhere there's a bracha in there. But regardless, a little bit of gratitude this week. I have a lot to be grateful for. Mom and Cliff are here for Pesach, and so that's a great blessing for me. And so, yeah, that's top of my list this week. And so I know we all have things that we have some hoda'ah, a little bit of gratitude for. In some cases, a lot of gratitude. And so on the top of 163, let's read responsively. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks.
For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and our hands, we offer praise.
For the desire in us, which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful.
For life and nature, harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow, all praise to the source of being.
And page 164, we'll close out the Amidah with Shalom Rav, a prayer for peace, which closes out every major prayer. Every major prayer we have ends with a call for peace. Top of 164. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol eit u'v'chol sha'ah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Let's read responsively in the middle of the page. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes.
Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of our world. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart.
Praised are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. All right, we're going to jump ahead to page 253, the Mishaberach, the prayer for healing. If you know anyone, if you have anybody in your life that needs a little bit of healing, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, any kind of healing, keep them in your thoughts and close to your heart. And after Yantif, reach out to them, right? We've been talking a lot about word versus deed, and the Mishaberach, as much as it is for the person who is ill, is also a reminder to us that there are people who need a little bit of healing, and sometimes that healing takes place with a phone call, a text message, an email, just reaching out. And so after Yantif Monday evening, reach out to somebody and let them know you're thinking about them. Page 253 in the middle, Mishaberach. Mishaberach Ahavotenu Mekor habracha le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha le'ahavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. You're going to jump ahead to 258 and 259, where we'll find prayer for our congregation, our country, and Medinat Yisrael, and we'll read these together. Source of all being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us: love of Torah, devotion in prayer, and support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadcha biyira na'avod. Thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry, and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing, and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness. Avinu Shabashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'Goalo, Borech et Medinat Yisrael, Reishit Tzmichat Geulatenu, Hagein Aleha Bi'avrat Chosdecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha, Ushlach Orcha Va'amitecha Lorasheha, Sareha V'yoetzeha, V'tatneim Be'etza Tova Milfanecha, V'natata Shalom Ba'aretz, V'simchat Olam Liyoshveha, V'nomar Amen. O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and the fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen. All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos. This week, right before Pesach, we get Parshat Tzav. Tzav, which means the imperative form of command, right? God says to Moses, command Bnei Yisrael. And last week, we started the book of Vayikra, the book of Leviticus. And this week, it's a bit of a repetition. This week's Parsha repeats and enlarges on the descriptions of the korbanot, on the sacrifices that we were introduced to last week. Right? So it starts off by talking about the olah offering, the burnt offering, that its ashes are to be removed from the altar each morning. And, what's interesting about this is that we know that it wasn't some, janitor or caretaker who did it. It was oftentimes the high priest himself that would clean the altar every morning, right? So, there's a lot to be said about that. It wasn't, it was kind of a messy job, but it wasn't farmed off to somebody else, but one of the priests. And the priests were to keep the fire on the altar burning continually, right? So there should always be a fire on the altar, even if there's no burnt offering being offered. Then we get something about the mincha, the meal offering, that the priests spread a handful of the fine flour together with oil and frankincense upon the altar, and they set it afire. And then the remaining meal, the remaining flour, is taken and eaten by the priests. Right? So part of the offering went on the altar, and the rest of it went to the priests. The sin offering, the chatat, and this is for unintentional wrongs, right? You do something, you break a commandment, but you didn't think, I'm doing this on purpose. Rather, it's something slipped your mind and you realize, I didn't do X. And so you take a sin offering. And if it's cooked, if the offering is cooked in a clay pot, the pot is broken. If it is offered in a copper pot, the pot is scrubbed and rinsed, and it can be used again. And the priests can eat of this, right? This is how, some of the sacrifices get totally consumed by the fire. Others get partially consumed by the fire or partially offered up, and the priests get the rest, because this is what the priests did, right? They didn't draw a salary for running the sacrifices, so they and their families had to eat, and so they got parts of the sacrifice. The Asham, the guilt offering, right? And we know Asham from the high holiday prayer, Ashamnu, right? This means we have sinned or we are guilty. And so this offering is slaughtered. Its blood is taken and poured on all sides of the altar. The fat, the entrails, the kidneys, and parts of the liver, I wonder what parts they were, are burned. And the sons of the priests could eat what was left. They could eat of this offering. And then there's the Zevach Hashlamim, which is the well-being offering, or the offering of peace. Right? It's a gift of thanksgiving. When something good happened, right? You would go and offer a Zevach Hashlamim. And it was an animal, unleavened cakes mixed with oil, unleavened wafers with oil, cakes of fine flour soaked in oil. And if it's an animal, the blood of the sacrifice is spread around the altar, and the Zevach Hashlamim had to be eaten on that day. Right? There were certain offerings that you could eat that day and carry it over into the next, or however long the food lasted. But there were certain offerings like the Zevach Hashlamim that had to be eaten on that day. And the priests are forbidden from eating fat from an ox, a sheep, a goat, or animals that were killed by other animals. Actually, we're forbidden from doing that. We're not allowed to eat blood, right? The blood is the essence of life. And so it gets either poured into the ground, or in terms of offerings, it gets sprinkled around the altar. And if we do eat the blood, we can suffer from karet, which means being cut off. Shunned would be a word. You cut off from the community. If you do something so egregious that the community can't abide to have you in the community, that's called karet. And with the Zevach Hashlamim, one part was burned, one part went to the Kohanim, and one part went to the person who was offering up that particular sacrifice. After they're done talking about the sacrifices, Aharon and his sons are ordained as priests. They are sprinkled with oil. This makes them technically what we would call a Mashiach, right? Somebody who is anointed, somebody who is ordained for a special purpose with oil, right? And that's what a Mashiach is. He gets anointed, and so the high priests get anointed, or the priests get anointed, kings get anointed, some prophets were anointed, right? So that's a piece of trivia for you. And there was blood that was put on their right ears, their thumbs, their toes, right? And that's probably has to do with them being called to do holy work, the work for God. And so that's this week's Torah portion in a nutshell. Again, not a lot of action, but some interesting things going on. Okay, today is Shabbat Hagadol, the Great Shabbat, and it's the Shabbat right before Passover. In fact, this year, Shabbat Hagadol goes right into Passover. And traditionally, it was one of only 2 times during the year that a rabbi would give a formal sermon. Most of the other times during the year, a rabbi would teach on Shabbat, give a drash on the Torah portion, talk about halakha, Jewish law or something. But it was on Shabbat Hagadol and Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat right before Yom Kippur, that the rabbis would get up and give a formal sermon. And the sermon was on the laws of the holiday coming. Well, it's a bit late for that right now, right? Everybody's already done their cleaning. Everybody's ready for Passover. So there's nothing I could tell you right now that you can go out and do to prepare for Passover, because this would be the time where I would give that sermon. But I want to give you some things to think about as you sit with your family, with your loved ones, with your friends, whether it's at your own table or via Zoom remotely. A couple of things to think about for Passover. For me, the heart of the Seder is not the meal. It's not the 10 plagues. It's not the 4 questions. It's not finding the afikomen. It's not singing the last song so that you know the Seder is over. But for me, it's where we are commanded to make the Pesach story our own. Right? Passover isn't one of these holidays that we can say, well, yeah, our ancestors did it. We might be tempted to do that with Shavuot. We might be tempted to do that with Sukkot. But we can't do it with Passover. Passover is the holiday for us. It is the beginning of our relationship as a people with God. Up until this point, it was God's relationship with individuals. God's relationship with Abraham, with Isaac, with Jacob, with Joseph, right? But now Passover is where God steps into history on our behalf and frees us from slavery. And so in the Haggadah, it says, "B'chol dor v'dor chayav adam li'orot et atzmo ki'ilu hu yatsa mi Mitzrayim." In every generation, it is incumbent upon each person to think of themselves as having personally left Mitzrayim, personally gone out from the narrow place, personally left slavery. And when they use the word Mitzrayim there, they're not talking about the physical place of Egypt. They're talking about any narrow place. Mitzrayim comes from the Hebrew root metzar, which means narrow or constricting, like a suit that's too tight, or a bear hug where you can't breathe, right? That's a metzar. And so every year we have to go from that narrow place to freedom. Mitzrayim is any place that constricts us and keeps us from being who we are called to be, who we need to be. And what the Haggadah is telling us right there is that we have the capacity to change, to move, to grow, right? And just by taking the first steps out of Mitzrayim, taking the first step out of whatever is constricting us. It could be a relationship, it could be an addiction, it could be a job that we hate. Yeah, it's easy to sit back and complain, right? The slaves could have done that in Egypt. They could have just complained, but instead they decided to take the leap of faith and take that first step towards freedom. And it wasn't going to be easy. We know the story. It's not going to be easy, but they're no longer slaves. We can move and we can grow. And even if we don't feel that we are in Mitzrayim, if you are one of those truly blessed people who is where you want to be, life is good, you have no complaints, you're still not off the hook. Because if there are other people who are in a Mitzrayim, who are in a narrow place, we're not free, if we're not completely free, if they're still enslaved. And that can be somebody in your family who is having a difficult time. It could be somebody in your circle of friends, or it could be a problem facing the country. As long as people feel enslaved, we're not completely free. But by taking that first step of realizing that we are in a Mitzrayim, realizing that we're in a narrow place, realizing that we want to get out from that narrow place, that gives us the capacity to change ourselves and the world for the better. Change is always possible if we're willing to take the first steps. And so I want to share a couple of things right now. One is something funny. I know I'm talking over my limit tonight, but traditionally, Shabbat Hagadol sermons would go for hours. So you got me, right? I can talk all night. But tomorrow night at sundown, Jews everywhere. This is the most observed holiday on the calendar. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur pale in comparison to how many people participate in Passover Seders. And so tomorrow night will begin the first night of Passover. And before we eat our meal of unleavened bread, matzah, we have to complete the Seder, a religious service conducted on the first and oftentimes the second nights of our holiday. And these Seders can seem never ending, right? And so in 2006, Michael Rubiner drafted a plan for a shorter, sweeter Seder. And here's his proposal. The 2-minute Seder, the 2-minute Haggadah, opening prayers. Thanks, God, for creating wine. Drink the wine. Thanks for creating produce. Eat the parsley. Overview. Once we were slaves in Egypt, now we're free. That's why we're doing this. 4 questions. What's up with the matzah? What's the deal with the horseradish? What's with the dipping of the herbs? What's this whole slouching at the table business? Answers. When we left Egypt, we were in a hurry. There was no time for making a decent bread. Life is bitter like horseradish. It's called symbolism. Free people get to slouch. A funny story. Once there were these 5 rabbis that talked all night, and then it was morning. Heat the soup. 4 kinds of children and how to deal with them. Wise child, explain Passover. Simple child, explain Passover slowly. Silent child, explain Passover loudly. Wicked child, browbeat them in front of the relatives. Speaking of children, we hid some matzah. Whoever finds it gets $5. The story of Passover. It's a long time ago. We were slaves in Egypt. Pharaoh, a nightmare. We cry out for help. God brings plagues. We escape. Bake some matzah. God parts the Red Sea. We make it through. The Egyptians, not so lucky. We wander 40 years in the desert, eat manna, get the Torah, wind up in Israel, get a new temple, enjoy several years without being persecuted again. let the brisket cool. The 10 plagues, blood, frogs, lice, you name it. The singing of Dayenu. If God had gotten us out of Egypt and not punished our enemies, it would have been enough. If he punished our enemies and not parted the Red Sea, it would have been enough. If he parted the Red Sea, yada, 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 remove gefilte fish from the refrigerator. Eat matzah, drink wine, slouch. Thanks again, God, for everything. Serve the meal. There you go. 2 minutes and you're at your meal. One last thing. A little bit of a conversation starter for you at the Seder. Everybody knows we drink 4 cups of wine, and then we have Elijah's cup at the end. But why do we drink 4 cups of wine, and why do we have Elijah's cup? All right, so that's the question you can ask. The answer is that the cups of wine correspond to promises that God made to us in the 6th chapter of Exodus, where God says, Hotzeti, I will free you from slavery. Hitzalti, I will deliver you from the harsh bonds of servitude. Ga'alti, I will redeem you. Right? I will take you and I will redeem you. I will get you out of the bad place. Lakachti, I will take you and make you my people. Right? So the number 4 is big in the Haggadah. Right? 4 questions, for children, 4 cups of wine. But actually, it should be 5 cups of wine. There's a 5th promise that God makes to the children of Israel on that first leading up to that first paragraph, Pesach, Heveti, I will bring you to the land that I promised you. Now, that posed a difficulty for the rabbis as they were creating the Haggadah. They were in exile. They knew they should have had 5 cups of wine. God did, in fact, free us, deliver us, redeem us, and take us to be a people, but we were no longer in the land. And so the rabbis had a conundrum. Do we say that God's 4 out of 5? Still get God into the Hall of Fame, right? But what about that 5th promise? And so they kind of split the difference. They said, yeah, we should have that 5th cup, but we don't feel comfortable drinking it because we're not in the land. That promise has yet to be fulfilled, or it needs to be fulfilled again. And so they said, we'll let it up to Eliyahu Hanavi. We'll let it up to Elijah, who the rabbis say in the Talmud, anytime they can't answer a question, they say teku. They say, when Elijah comes, he'll answer the difficulty. He'll get rid of the difficulty for us. And so we put out the 5th cup of wine, which is Elijah's cup, but we don't drink it. So now the question is, should we be drinking that 5th cup of wine? We're back in the land of Israel. Israel's a state. The Jews once again have autonomy. The Jews have a homeland. Do we have to wait for Elijah to come back and say, hey, kids, drink that 5th cup? Do we break with tradition? I can hear Tevye singing it now. Tradition. No, we can't break with tradition. And yet that 5th promise is fulfilled. Think about it. Part of the Seder is for discussion. Part of the Seder is for figuring out what it means to be a Jew. 5th cup. Do we drink it or not? Shabbat shalom, everyone, and good Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom.
Sam, what time is it?
Kiddush.
Kiddush, speaking of wine. Speaking of a cup of wine, or in my case, grape juice. Kiddush. Vayhi erev vayhi voker yom hashishi. Vayachulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzivam. Vayachal Elohim vayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa. Vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa. Vayavarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i, vayikadesh oto, ki vo shavat mikol melachto, asher bara Elohim la'asot. Savri, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon, hinchilanu, zikaron l'ma'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziat mitzrayim. Ki vanu v'acharta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'ahava uvratzon, inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh Shabbat.
Amen.
All right, friends, we'll continue with Aleinu, page 282. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot hadama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gohor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, akadosh baruch hu. Shehu notei shamayim v'yoser haaretz, umoshav yekaro b'shamayim mimahal, ushchinatu zo, v'govhei meromim. Hu Eloheinu Eod, Emet Malkeinu Efes Ulato, Kakahatu V'Torato, V'yadat Hayom V'Hashevota, Elevalecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, Bashamayim Mimal, V'al kol haaretz, mitachai eod. Let's read together on the top of page 285. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. O may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lamelech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu yihyeh Adonai echad. Ushemo echad. This week we observed the following yahrzeits: Edna Brown Baker, David's mother; Isaac Gross, Diane Shaddle's maternal grandfather, husband of Annie. Celia Skoll, Barrett Skoll's mother. Molly Frischman, Janice Chertow's grandmother. Sam Kaplan, husband of Anna, father of Betsy and Stephen, Pauline's brother. Samuel Herman Casson, father of Martin. Charles Lundy, husband of Judy, grandfather of Nathan Daniel Jurin. Leona Cohen, Nelson Cohen's mother. Louis Kraft, Leon Levy's father-in-law. Abraham Kagan, Harold's father. Isaac Lerner, Joan's husband, father of Judy, Bob, and Jan. Regina Levine, Regina's great-grandmother, Mo and Bernard's grandmother, Milton's mother. Joseph Roisman, Tully's father. Sophie Goldman, Nancy Neufeld's grandmother. Philip Supovitz, Lynn Mayer's paternal grandfather. Olga Cohen, relative of Alan Wilkins. Harriet Kaplan, Saul's wife. Norma Rosenfeder, Charlie's wife. Samuel K. Hartz, Murray's grandfather. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May their memories be a blessing to us all, and may they all rest in peace. Mourner's Kaddish, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlik malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, amen. Yitgadal. I'm sorry, All right, take two. Lost my place and went on autopilot, and that's not a good thing for me right now. All right, so top of page 294, we'll do this again. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah v'vorach le'olam olamei maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'elah min kol birchata b'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiram v'alma v'yimru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, amen. All right, friends. Let's see. Couple of quick announcements. Services tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. and then on Sunday at 10 a.m. for first day of festival. And you should have gotten an email with a Siddur in a PDF form, and that's going to be the Siddur we'll use for the festivals. And those of you who were with us for Sukkot and Shmini Atzeret know that we use the Rabbinical Assembly's Siddur Sim Shalom for holidays. So we'll have a holiday Siddur, and you should have gotten that. You can just follow along. And it's in an edited Siddur. I went through and I edited the PDF file so that we only have the pages that we need. So you don't have to be scrolling looking for a page. No meetings this week. It's Passover and then Chol HaMoed. Although I do believe on Wednesday, the Yiddish choir is meeting. And so we'll know definitely tomorrow when Scott and Tam are here. I want to say thanks to Sam for being my tech guru and reminding me about Kiddush, and welcome to Mom and Cliff as they are here for Passover. I want to wish everybody a Zissen Pesach, a Chag Pesach Sameach, only blessings and good things for us all. Sam, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so.
Nope. All right. Well, Sam says I got it, then I got it. Page 320, we'll close out with Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem kol yitzir nivra, li'et nasa b'chefso kol, azai melech shemo nikra, v'acharei kilot hakol, levado imloch nora, vehu haya, vehu hoveh, vehu yeh betifara, vehu echad v'yein sheni, להמשילו להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וזוכב לי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו אפקיד רוחי, בעת אישן ויעירה, ואם רוחי גוויעתי, אדוני לי ולא יירא. Let's see who's online tonight. Patty Ann Malloy, there she is in Brooklyn with Aaron, hi gang, and Rabbi Juan. Good Shabbos. Also want to use this time to wish everybody a happy Passover, Chag Sameach. Right back at you, Patty Ann and Aaron. Glad that you're with us. Jenny Bro, Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach Pesach to all. Thank you, Jenny. Same to you. Suzanne Hart, Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach Pesach. Wonderful, Suzanne, to you and Murray as well. Donna Wilson, thanks, Rabbi, for including part of the prayer book in the email. Great. Much appreciated. Chag Sameach. And John Rosenberg, Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach Pesach. And how about the orange tangerine on the Seder plate for another day? Well, that's an interesting thing. There's a tradition of putting an orange on the Seder plate, and there are a bunch of conflicting reasons why that is. But the one that I go with is a group of Orthodox rabbis said that this is talking about feminism and women leading the Seder, that women leading the Seder have as much place or should have as much place leading a Seder as an orange on a Seder plate. Although actually what they said was women leading a Seder are women leading a Seder are as appropriate as bread on a Seder plate. Right. So, but now rather than putting bread on a Seder plate, the women put the orange on there to show that, well, there you go. There you have it. So Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Happy birthday to Tom Pressman, whose birthday was today. Everybody be safe out there. Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos. Chag Sameach. We'll see you all soon.